Morning, glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. Hugh Hewitt inside the Beltway. Good Monday, July the 18th to you. The lead story of today and of the weekend is the return of COVID in significant numbers in the United States, and it never left the world. Wall Street Journal this morning, unvaccinated Americans are behind rising COVID-19 hospitalizations. The vast majority of patients driving up COVID-19 hospitalizations are the unvaccinated. The highly contagious Delta variant is spreading throughout the United States. Advent Health, that's a great health system, 41 hospitals, 7 largely Midwestern and Southern states. 97% of the 12,700 COVID-19 patients treated at Advent Health, 41 hospitals this year, have been unvaccinated or partially vaccinated. Of the fully vaccinated COVID-19 patients who have been or are in Advent Health hospitals, most have weakened or compromised immune systems due to cancer or other conditions. The numbers are pretty stark. The U.S. is recording a 7-day average of 27,930 new COVID cases per day. The number of hospitalizations is now about 3,000 a day. All right, so in California, that would mean about 300 people a day. That's up from 36%. That's up 36% from last week. The number of deaths from COVID have gone up to 238 a day after weeks of decline. To measure 238 deaths a day, compare it with in January, there were 4,590 deaths a day. So it's less than 10% of what it was, but it's going in the wrong direction because the Delta variant is going everywhere. My number is 1-800-520-1234. I'm curious if these numbers are changing your view at all about getting vaccinated. Vaccines are free and available at almost every community at a pharmacy. Call ahead or just drop in. There'll be 2 or 3 drugstores in your town that will have it, probably. The pandemic worldwide has entered a new epicenter, Indonesia, which is the new India. India continues to stagger under it. But Vietnam, Malaysia, Myanmar, and Thailand are facing large outbreaks, but Indonesia's got the largest. And 57,000 new cases on Thursday. On Friday, 1,205 people died. And so it's quite a pandemic, deadly pandemic in Indonesia. Among the Texas Democrats who flew to Washington, D.C., the number is up to 5 who now have COVID. They flew maskless on an airplane. They went around and they saw everyone, including Kamala Harris. They say they were all vaccinated. So 5 out of, I don't know how many came. That's not in the story. It's a fairly significant number of them drinking beer and flying. It was an absurd story, a stunt. They should never have done it. I feel for those who've got COVID. I don't wish that on anyone. I hope they all recover. One of them is said to have a very mild case because they were vaccinated. Olympians are dropping out or being tested positive. They've had 3 cases test positive at the Olympic Village. And the young tennis star Coco is out from the United States. It's a very sad situation. She had really wanted to play and represent the United States. And they're not going to have many fans in the stands. People in Tokyo, very leery of COVID. Second big story of the day is this spyware, malware created by NSO. The NSO group is targeted in Israel, and they have sold Pegasus spyware to a number of governments and individuals across the world, and it's been used to infiltrate 50,000 phones, including journalists and officials. I haven't gotten a notice yet, so I don't think I'm hacked, but I always assume it is hacked. If I have to talk to someone, I use Signal. If I'm talking money with somebody, I use Signal. If it's gossip, people can have it. It's gossip. I live in a fairly unprotected cyber world, but I'm also pretty dull. I just do the news. The Guardian in Great Britain has a very long story about this. So the Guardian is free, by the way. If you want to go and read it, www.theguardian.com. Leak uncovers global abuse of cyber surveillance weapon. And it's a enormous story. Human rights activists, journalists, lawyers across the world have been targeted by authoritarian governments using hacking software sold by the Israeli surveillance company NSO Group. The investigation by The Guardian and 16 other media organizations suggests widespread continuing abuse of the NSO's hacking spyware, Pegasus. The company insists it's only intended for use against criminals and terrorists. Pegasus is a malware that infects iPhones and Android devices to enable operators of the tool to extract messages, photos, and emails, record calls, secretly activate microphones. So there's that. President Biden anger at Facebook spilled over on Friday after our show was done. Accused Facebook of spreading misinformation about the virus. I really don't think you can blame Facebook for this because you really can't categorize what it is you're complaining about. The Section 230 provides immunity to all public purveyors. It ought to be repealed. And then if people can show causation, proximate cause between a Facebook post and harm, they would face liability. So just get rid of Section 230. President Trump proposed that. President Biden ought to be in favor of that, and it would apply to every common carrier. On the economic side, OPEC has agreed to boost oil output because, my gosh, the demand for oil is sky high. Did you watch Colin Morikawa yesterday win the British Open? That guy had ice in his veins. 24-year-old Berkeley Bear. And a bit of history. I love the tournament. I love it when golf gets a new superstar, and Colin Morikawa is now their new superstar. He beat Jordan Spieth, who's kind of a crowd favorite, but for the first time ever, and golf's been around a while. All right, golf's been around my whole lifetime. It goes back 150 years, but televised golf, I watched golf with my dad back when I was small, and I always loved Arnie Palmer, and many people were Jack Nicklaus people and then Tiger Woods people. Well, now they can be Colin Morikawa people. The first golfer ever to win a major twice, two different majors, the first time he teed it up in the tournament. He won the PGA last year, and he won the British Open this year at Royal St. George. A two-time major champion at age 24, Colin Morikawa is going to be a brand new superstar. There was a shooting outside of the Nationals game in Washington, outside of Nat Stadium, caused a panic. 3 people were injured outside, but it was really quite a panic. Escalating material prices turned construction bids into a gamble. Not a surprise there. Remote voting in Congress is the subject of a big story in the New York Times. Originally developed to deal with the pandemic, it's now become just another lazy rear-end congressman deal. They don't have to come back to work if they can vote from home. That's got to end. And an interesting story on sales jobs. The pay is high, but few want to go into sales. You can make a lot more money in sales than you can in any other job. I think sales is a fine job. I sell every day on this show, right? Right now, if you want to go on our cruise in April, I'm selling right now. April 20th through 30th, you call up Amy at Frosch Travel, 818-853-8536. We're going to go from Paris to Normandy and back. April 20th to 30th of next year. Give her a call, 818-853-8536. That's sales. Frosch sponsors the program, by the way. And we have, I think, 21 cabins left. A bunch of you bought it on Friday. And then my favorite story of the day is from The Telegraph. Never listen to your children and other key tricks to nailing beach style as the great British male. That applies in America, too. Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt, joined by Salena Zito. It's time for the Yenzer Report. If you want everything that Salena writes you, go to salenazito.com and register. It's that time of the year when everyone in Pittsburgh goes to Ohio to go to Six Flags or Cedar Point. They have no amusement parks in Pennsylvania. So, Salena, have you been over to Six Flags yet or Cedar Point?
No, there's an amazing amusement park right in our backyard.
Oh, come on. You're
Amusement park.
making stuff up again, Selena. There's nothing in Pennsylvania. You got to take your grandkids to Cedar Point or Six Flags.
Oh, no, there's Kennywood Park, and then there's the lovely Idlewild Park.
Oh, that's like Idora Park in Youngstown. It's like one wooden structure that has one curve in it. It's not really an amusement park. It's like a carnival.
That's not true.
Yes, we know. If you go to Six Flags parking lot, all you'll see are those ugly Pennsylvania license plates. They had like an ugly license plate competition in Pennsylvania one.
Yeah, but no, that is true.
See, all I do is speak truth on this show. So you're on summer vacation, I think, because there's no Salena Zito column this week in the Washington Examiner.
There isn't. I was on vacation. Well, I was on vacation, but I was still, driving around. I found a couple great stories that I'm going to be that I'm working on, and I interviewed Mitch Daniels at Purdue. So, I don't.
Is Purdue accredited yet?
Accredited.
Are they a degree granting institution yet?
Are you just taking out every state that's
They're in Indiana, and things get there slow. It's just absolutely the case. I just want to know. I'm just a reporter. I just need to report stuff as it happens. I'm getting ready for vacation. I go on vacation Friday after the show is done for 2 weeks, so I'm in vacation mode this week.
Well, you're fun, you is this week. As
opposed to glum. Well, I've been talking to people who haven't been vaccinated, and the numbers are getting scary with the Delta variant, but I'm not making much headway, Selena.
People, I've talked to people as well that aren't vaccinated, and it's a complex and interesting phenomena, and I don't know if there's anything you can say and or do at this point to change their minds. I think the only thing that's going to change their minds is experience, and unfortunately that experience is probably going to be an unhappy experience, either personally or if something happens to someone that they love.
Well, I do think as the Delta variant spreads, and I was reading the alarming numbers of hospitalization among the 97% of the hospitalizations in the Advent system from COVID are the unvaccinated. Among those deaths, there are about 10% of the deaths in the last 7 weeks at the 41 Advent hospitals in 7 states, not 7 weeks. And the numbers are pretty astonishing. It's Coca Gauff is testing positive, but she'll be fine. She's a young athletic person. But the numbers in the Wall Street Journal this morning in the United States, we are up to 237 deaths a day and 238 deaths a day and 27,930 new cases a day. It's all the unvaccinated.
I think that there was always going to be a moment where we hit peak vaccination in terms of people that are willing to do it. And the mistake I think that a lot of people make in the news is that they believe that this is an ideological point of view, and it's really not. If you break it down and you look at the numbers of the people that are unvaccinated, it really is strange for people that aren't strongly ideological in either way. This is just something that they would have never done. It's just not. There are people out there that just do not believe in and or trust the government, again, but not on ideological points of view. It's just that this is their belief system.
It's interesting to me. There are about 30% of the United States is considered ungettable. I think that will decline as the numbers rise. The Delta variant's going to turn some people around. They might have thought they dodged the bullet and we got herd immunity. We do not have herd immunity, not by a long shot.
Right. I always thought that you're right. There's about 30% of the population just wasn't going to do it. Just wasn't going to happen. And I don't. And there might even be the case where they get it, survive, and still will still hold that same value.
Oh, I've had one. I had a caller this morning. 7 days in the hospital, very close to checking out. Had her hot dish, lovely lady, going into work. Would do it all again. Wouldn't get it again. So
Yeah,
it's not ideological. It is a deeply personal point of view that, marginally we can talk to some people about it. I'm not condemning anyone. I'm just saying the science is on the side of getting vaccinated. Please go get vaccinated. Hey, Salena, good to talk to you. Welcome back. I hope you're writing soon. Go over to Six Flags. It's not far away from Pittsburgh. No amusement parks in Pennsylvania. I'll be right back, America. Stay tuned. Inside the Beltway on Monday, July 18th, standing by for Jake Sherman of Punchbowl News. Now, I know he's awake because Punchbowl News came out this morning. I was going to talk with him about both the House and the Senate are back. That's why my last week of work before vacation is this week, because the Senate and the House are back, and then they go away for August and July. And Chuck Schumer's going to try and force through a vote on the infrastructure bill. That's not going to happen. Rob Portman, senator from Ohio, an all-around good guy, was making the rounds on the Sunday shows yesterday and just telling people not going to have a bill full of IRS appropriations. And so they're not close. Here he is, in fact, Rob Portman, cut number 2 yesterday.
Start debate on what? We don't have a product yet, and we won't have a product until we can finish the negotiations properly. Again, this is a complex bill. It involves several committees. It involves a lot of very tough issues because we've got to resolve them between us first. So again, we're meeting today. There are 11 Democrats and 11 Republicans working on this, and we're moving as fast as we can. Dana, think about it. When we came together with the general framework agreement, it was decided that we would then get into the details. We've had 1 week of legislative session since then for a bill that, as you indicated earlier, is over a 10-year period, over $1 trillion. Over a 5-year period, which is what it's for. It's $579 billion. It makes historic investments in our infrastructure. We want to get it right. So it's not too much to ask that we have the time to do that. Again, I was on with the White House last night negotiating some of the final details. So we're still very much in that process. We'll push as hard as we can. We're working all weekend again, and that's important. So it's important we get it done because it's an urgent matter. But we ought not to have an arbitrary deadline forcing this process. We got to be sure that we're doing it.
That is Rob Portman yesterday throwing water on Chuck Schumer's schedule. Joined now by Jake Sherman, Punchbowl News. Hello, Jake. Good morning.
Hugh, how are you?
I knew you were awake because Punchbowl News arrived at 6:05, so I knew you were out and working this morning.
Yeah, I was awake. My ringer wasn't on, which is a fatal error.
Oh dear. So Jake, you're right. Everybody is back for 1 more week. I'm going on vacation Friday after the show, and I assume Congress is gone for the next 5 weeks after this?
No. Congress is in for at least the next 3 weeks. We anticipate actually Congress is going to stay in session until potentially the second week of August. Through the second week of August, we think it's possible just to get this infrastructure budget thing through Congress, because you know what? At the end of the day, Hugh, yes, I agree that it's an arbitrary deadline, but it's arbitrary in the sense that it doesn't have to happen. But if Congress is to pass an infrastructure and a social safety net, human infrastructure, whatever you want to call it, bill, they need to do it soon because government funding is going to start in September.
Well, you mentioned, by the way, that means Kurt Schlichter will have something to talk about next week because I'm still going on vacation. I thought they were in for a week. But I'll tell you, the fact of the matter remains that the reconciliation bill is on a shakier foundation than infrastructure. Fair characterization?
Yes and no. Yes, because it's $3.5 trillion, and no, because they need to ride together or else neither of them are going to pass. But I will say this, Hugh, and I feel very confident in saying this after a weekend and a week of talking to a lot of House Democrats. If you're a House Democrat in some modestly safe seat to not safe seat, so somebody who has a race, how do you vote for a $3.5 trillion bill? I don't care what's in it. It could be chocolate and money for everybody on planet Earth. The component parts could be really popular. No one cares about the component parts. They are going to talk about the price tag. That's just the reality. I'm sorry to those who want this bill, and I'm not suggesting it will or won't pass or should or shouldn't pass, but $3.5 trillion of spending is really, really difficult to get through. And I just
now, Jake, I talked to a lot of Republicans, very few Democrats. In fact, I haven't talked to a Democrat in a week. Every Republican tells me infrastructure's got a much better chance of passing because no Republican's going to vote for infrastructure. You just outlined the problem in the House, and the $3.5 trillion is an inflation bonfire. And you've got Maggie Hassan and Tester. Forget about the hard ones, Manchin and Sinema. You've got another 4 or 5 who are saying, really, $3.5 trillion right now is not a good idea. We're going to get blown out. Raphael Warnock may vote for it, but he knows it's going to be death on his campaign.
Yeah, but I agree with you, Hugh. I mean, the infrastructure package, should they get it done, and you played a really critical clip before bringing me on, which was Rob Portman suggesting that the timeline, and also there's just this pay-for problem on infrastructure. I agree that infrastructure is an easier pass for Congress, but still they're both quite difficult right now. And so let me just play this out for 1 second. Let me just play this out for 1 second, Hugh. If the $3.5 trillion doesn't pass, does Nancy Pelosi take up the infrastructure bill? And I know you would probably say yes, because you think it would be a good idea for her to do so. And I don't disagree with you, but can it pass if the progressive wing doesn't have anything else on the other side of it, on the social spending side? And the answer to that is not clear to me.
Oh, I don't know either. All I know is that I don't believe they're joined at the hip, because it will be Nancy Pelosi. The infrastructure bill is going to pass in the Senate eventually. That's my assessment. They're going to get it down to a reasonable number and a reasonable no new taxes. And then it's going to be up to Nancy Pelosi to kill bridges. I don't think she's going to kill bridges, because these members have to go back and campaign on something in new districts. Again, the looming shadow is redistricting. And all of these members are under the threat of ending up in a new district where they'd like a bridge, right?
Yes, that's true. I mean, listen, there's no question that infrastructure is a more popular or a more broadly popular proposition, and would be a boon for a lot of these red to purple state Democrats who are going to be up for re-election and who could have new seats and all that stuff. There's no question about that. My only quibble here, and my only qualm and unanswered question is, can one pass without the other? And the answer to that is just not clear to me at this point. But, before we get there, Hugh, there's just a lot of problems on the pay-for side. Rob Portman, as you know, I'm sure you've known him for a very long time. He's an incredibly serious guy. He's a very serious guy with a thick policy portfolio, and if anyone could get there, it's him. But letting go of this IRS pay-for, which was doomed from the beginning, in my estimation, you got to look in couch cushions now, and when you start looking in couch cushions, you're going to come up short.
Well, Portman, OMB director, University of Michigan law grad, as I was. We were there at the same time, though he was older than me, and I don't remember. If he can get it done, he'll get it done. He's doing this in good faith, as are Romney and Collins and the rest of them. And if it's a good bill, 5 years, $1 trillion isn't that bad for infrastructure. It really isn't. It's not a bad bill. So that they can get it passed if it doesn't raise taxes. It's just up to Nancy Pelosi at that point. And she's trying to make people think she won't do it to increase her leverage. That's like not sending over the articles of impeachment. That was one of the dumbest things ever. Like the Texas Democrats, dumb stunt. How dumb of a stunt, Jake? Now, not only do they have 5, and I pray for everyone who's got COVID. I hope they don't get real sick. But it was a dumb stunt already, and now it's even dumber. And their sunk costs are enormous, but they're not moving. Even though Greg Abbott said on this show on Friday, he's just going to call another special sessions as far as the eye can see. They're going to look dumber and dumber and dumber. It's Nancy Pelosi's impeachment article.
The only reason, if you could make an argument, if you're a Democrat, the only reason it was smart is because it drew attention to the issue. But it's not as if Democrats didn't have attention on this issue. So I agree. I mean, I just think it's going to pass. It's going to pass eventually. It's inevitable. It's not like this is going to move Republicans, and these folks are here until August 7th, and some of them have COVID. It's just not. It doesn't seem like a great situation.
And then Abbott's going to call another special session. And he told me that back to back. It's the dumbest thing since Nancy Pelosi, quote, sat on the impeachment articles. And then after 2 weeks or whatever it was, maybe it was 3 weeks, she sent them over. She thought she had leverage. When you think you have leverage and you don't have leverage, you look like a fool. And I don't call anyone a fool. It's anti-scripture to do that. Let me ask you about, were you happened to be at the Nats game when the shooting took place?
I wasn't, but I know a lot of people who were. Quite scary situation.
Well, tell me about that. I saw the film. Everybody did everything wrong. You're not supposed to run onto the field. You are supposed to barricade yourself. I've had friends who survived the Navy Yard shooting. Barricade yourself if you're in a room. Hit the deck, but don't run onto the field. What the heck happened?
I don't know the answer to that. I will say, though, I mean, they did kind of say get into the – I don't know if they said it, but I know a lot of people went into the dugout, went into the clubhouse. But luckily it was outside. Thank God it was outside. Listen, I mean – it doesn't seem related to the game. It does highlight, though, in D.C. we still do have, crime. I mean, no matter how nice and glitzy, and I was down. We had a Punchbowl news party a couple nights ago at a restaurant.
Oh, I know. I wasn't invited to your 100,000 subscriber, Jake, and I think half of them are from the Hugh Hewitt show. But I'm not upset. I'm not upset, Jake.
You will get a VIP.
Oh, no, it's okay. I'm just sitting here by myself reading about the Punchbowl news party. Sounded like a hell of a party, Jake.
It was fun.
Yeah.
But
how many of them have you on every week to push your newsletter, huh? I just saying.
You will be invited. You will never not be invited.
You tell Anna Palmer. I was just looking in my mailbox every day saying, well, I know they'd invite me to. Good to talk to you, Jake Sherman. Punchbowl News. Go and get it every day. You don't get invited to their parties, but you do get all the information you need to be smart inside the Beltway. Stay tuned, America.